Some pages there from Night Owl BBS, courtesy of Brian Martin. Night Owl should be online and live right now. The details and address of how to access are on your screen right now. Very good evening. This is youtube.com/Wi-Fi sheep. The time is 20:01 hours GMT. Hello, how are you doing? Good evening and a very warm welcome to 8 Till Late live on youtube.com/Wi-Fi sheep with me, Tom. Apologies for the slightly late start and the I think I left the mic open. There's no jazz music. I had the wrong screen up for the BBS, so I think you may have heard me shuffling around or grumbling. Apologies for that. Anyway, how are you doing? Hope you are well. I need to explain a little bit about what's happening or gone on today. Basically, I nearly didn't make it live this evening. It's how can I say? Basically, we put an offer on a house today, so we don't own where we live, right? So I don't own this space, and we've been looking for a place for a while, and we've actually put an offer on something, and absolutely amazingly, it's actually been accepted, and we're both in a bit of a state of shock. So obviously, it's a long way to go. We just had an offer accepted today. And obviously, I'm sure many of you have bought housing and know the expense and the pitfalls of doing that. We will be staying in Shropshire, but we'll be moving from where we are now, potentially. So possibly this coming summer. Logistically, what that will mean is obviously a disruption to live streams and content here on the channel, because this space needs to be packed up. Hang on, stop giving me jip. Right. But the flip side of this is that potentially where I'm moving to would be a much bigger space. So I have a permanent workshop and studio space that would be bigger than this, which would be great. There is a bit of land attached to it, so the gardening and the back to the garden farm, grow up the garden farm channel is a possibility, and the chickens can come with us, which is amazing because we were worried about if we could actually take them with us when we move, but we can, or we will be able to potentially. So it will mean obviously my intention, let's start again. So it will mean that my attention will have to shift from making video content to basically sorting out a house. So I will naturally obviously keep you informed, and I obviously have a few projects that I need to do or want to do ahead of time, so I hopefully have enough buffer content to kind of keep stuff ticking over on the channel in the meantime. Speaking of which, and let me just remind you of the show dates. So the National Museum of Computing, Bletchley Park Econet LAN party, that is confirmed. I will be there regardless of what's happening in my personal life. So Saturday the 7th, Sunday the 8th of June 2025, National Museum of Computing, Bletchley Park, Milton Keynes. Should be a fun day. Tickets are on sale now, and about £38 for, it's £24, something like that, for the that's pound sterling. For one day it's either 36 or £38 for both days. Should be a lot of fun. So I'm going to have some content available. I'm going to bring some machines down. You know, we've been working on them here on the channel. And yeah, it should be really good. I enjoy going to that museum. So it'd be just great to hang out, if nothing else. Cambridge Retro Festival. This will be happening on Saturday the 15th, Sunday the 16th of November. Should be there. No reason why I shouldn't be there. Hotel booked. Again, great event. Great to actually support both museums. So, excuse me, I'm just going to drink tea while we do this. So it should be good to have, support both museums. We'll go over to members. There they all are. Huge thank you to everyone that supports me here on YouTube. You can support me either on Patreon or as a YouTube channel member. There all are the brilliant people that do so and continue to do so. Greatly appreciated. Many of them are in the chat. I'll come to the chat in a moment. Patreon, you know the score by now. Patreon.com/Wi-Fi Sheep. Or alternatively, right here on YouTube. YouTube channel members starting from 99p all the way up to $2.99. Just click that join button in the underneath this video. Or on any Wi-Fi Sheep video, there's a join button. And you can join from as little as 99p. And that'll be converted into your local currency. If it isn't, you'll see it in US dollars. Of course, if US dollars is your local currency, then hey, you win. So... and yes, Martin's saying your audio is on. I know. I'm acutely aware that what I did, just going back to that, is I clicked that, you see, and that's not what I meant to click. So it was running, but you could hear everything that was going on. What I meant to click was that. Anyway, there you go. So yeah, so apologies for that. Don't think I said anything incriminating. Yeah, so a little bit of a fluster this evening. So I'll try and keep it together. So what's been going on with the channel? Well, you've probably seen the video that went live earlier today. It was available for Patreon and YouTube channel member backers last night, which was on the Mac Mini, you know, the Pico Mac Mini. I do actually have it with me, actually. See if I can dig it out. So I took it to work, so I showed students. So hang on, apologies, I think I'm slightly out of focus. There we go. So, because I'm teaching some electronics at the moment for our engineering students at the university, so I actually like to bring things from home to show them. So this is one of my early Tony Basic computer boards. This is one of the PCBs that I got made, and obviously I've made a few adjustments. And then this is the Pico Mac from the other week. And yeah, so it's just to show them two microcontrollers. And yeah, it went down all right. We actually did power up the Mac, and I plugged. Luckily, we had a VGA connector basically at the desk, the lecture at the desk at the front of this. Wasn't a lecture theatre. It's like a classroom lab space where I was teaching in. So I was able to plug this straight in. We brought it up on the projector, actually behind me, so the students could see it actually booting into the Mac OS. Yeah, no, quite interesting though. They're building a sort of like a traffic lights thing at the moment. So they're using a PIC, what's called a Genie PIC. It's a closed source PIC architecture. So they're bound to do like a very simple almost like Scratch drag and drop programming, and they're designing a PCB. And I then have the unenviable task of milling PCBs. So we have blank copper sheet, and we have a milling machine to physically drill and mill tracks and boards out. So I'll be doing that over Easter. But no, it went really well. A couple of things that have been brought up on the video, actually, and I've checked the comments. I probably should bring it up, really, but I checked the comments on the video that went live earlier this afternoon. People complaining about my soldering irons again. Oh, sorry, I'm tripping over my words tonight. Soldering iron hang on. Right. There is a comment on there, subscriber, about my soldering iron. Okay. Yeah, I know it's not the best soldering iron in the world. I get it, but it's my soldering iron and I'll use it. So, surprised no one actually complaining about the soldering, but someone will. But look, it works as a technique. It works. So, yeah, I'm happy with that. So, you know, last week we were talking about maybe looking at like a Mac. We looked at Thingiverse, if you remember, and we were kind of talking about possibility of like building a full-scale Mac. And you saw in the video, I actually had this screen. I've got this. I say I've got this screen. I don't know where I put it this evening, but I do have like a 7-inch LCD screen. And so the possibilities of actually building a slightly underscale Mac by 3D printing, you know, have like a sort of like a Mac Classic type thing would be fantastic. And you might remember when we were live together last week, we talked about the mouse. So, which I know it's an underscale copy of an Amiga mouse, but it kind of looks, it's not quite the original Mac mouse, but it kind of has the same feel and look to it, which is kind of why I bought another one. Because amazingly, these things are going very cheap. So when I bought that one to do the C64 video, part of the Going Gooey series last year, that was nearly £20, which, to be honest with you, felt a bit expensive. These have dropped to about £10. So that was about 13 with carriage. So I've been picking another one up because I thought, well, I'll keep one with the C64, which, by the way, we've got to get around to repairing at some point. But I thought if I'm going to build a Mac, then I might have another mouse, especially for the Mac, if you know what I mean. So I just need to figure out some sort of keyboard at the moment. So I'm kind of wondering about like a mechanical type thing like I've got there. While I'm on the subject of the mouse and Retro Games Limited, I was trying to find it, and just bear with me, I'll see if I can find it. Because Retro Games Limited did had a statement about, let's see if I can find it. If I can, I'll bring it to you. They made a statement, which I won't be able to bring up, but they made a statement on Facebook about where, no, I'll show you, or actually, can I show you what I'm, no, because that's not set up. Come on, work with me. There we go. Okay, so basically, Retro Games Limited, for those of you who don't know, they produce a series of retro systems. They're effectively Linux boxes, ARM Linux boxes with emulators. So C64 probably being the one everyone's more familiar with. Then did a mini versions. They did a mini Amiga, a mini Atari, which we looked at. I have one here. The mini C64, and then they've done a full-size Spectrum is one of the latest ones they've done. And obviously some accessories, including the mouse. Basically, they made a statement, and I'll paraphrase it because I don't see. It's not on. I don't know if we can even see it on Facebook because I'm not logged in. It probably won't let me in. Okay, it's here. Let's see if we can do this. Okay, right. So this is Retro Games Limited, and this was a statement about the full-size Amiga. As everyone knows, it's been our paraphrases, by the way. It's been our intention to release a full-size sequel to the A500 Mini in Q1 of, so first quarter of 2025, which is like now. Despite, now I'll come to my comments on this in a minute, but despite the best efforts of our team and partners, this sadly will not be possible within the time line. It then goes on to basically explaining the classic thing which dogs the Amiga community is groups or parties threatening legal action or gatekeeping parts of the Commodore Amiga brand or enterprise, etc., etc. I will say I'm not surprised. I was surprised they got as far as they did with the Mini, in all honesty. Similar things have happened in other areas. It's not just the Amiga community. I will stress that. But they have announced that the full size, what was the name? There it is. The A1200 was going to be the full size version of the Amiga they were going to release. Yeah. So, not surprised, being very honest with you. It's a shame, but it's also not coming from the Amiga community myself and didn't grow up with it. And the kind of infighting and the toxic hostility is one reason I kind of wasn't that interested. It's kind of why I wasn't interested in the Amiga Mini when it came out. The best bit to come out of that for me obviously was the mouse, because that works with the C64. It works with standard PC. It's just a generic PC mouse, really. Sort of like I say laser mouse, but LED optical mouse. And these things are probably more useful for me as sort of generic beige retro mouse for computing systems or own builds. So yeah, it's a bit of a shame about that, really. So we'll see what happens. I appreciate for those of you that are Amiga fans and we're looking forward to that, then yeah, that's disappointing. I've got to be honest, and it's kind of the reason I didn't go down the road with getting the Spectrum, is I kind of just reached this point where I was acutely aware that we're just buying Linux boxes, and for many people that's fine. We've had this discussion before. So as a sort of lower cost consumer product for the masses, that's fine, it works. People don't want to mess around. They want a HDMI box that plays the games they remember. The minute you start the minute you want to do anything remotely technical, you start moving into sort of a different territory. And I know there's the Mega 65, and there's obviously the Commander X16 from the 8-bit guy, which start to sort of fill that void. They are very, very expensive products. And I know, actually, Dave Murray did an announcement the other day about a cost-reduced version of the Commander X16, which I don't know anything about. I noticed it contained, I forgot one spare. It had a microcontroller on it that looked not too dissimilar. That's not an ESP32. It's the ESP. Oh God, what was the other one called? The 128. Can't remember. Anyway, doesn't matter. Basically, I think they were driving the video out through ESP as opposed to that custom. Is it Vera or whatever it was they created? But that was interesting. So yeah, we're at that point now where stuff like this is fine to run off microcontrollers because, well, one, it doesn't have a Linux overhead, and two, it's extremely cheap and fun. And I don't mind that because we can kind of build and tinker, and that's great. I mean, people always ask me if Retro Games did a BBC Micro, which, by the way, they won't. But if they did, would you be interested in one? I think I might buy one. Purely because of obviously that's my system, but I haven't gone for things like the C64, and I kind of slightly regret, oddly enough, buying the Atari 400 Mini. I haven't really done much with that since we got it, really. But hey, it's one of those things. I'm trying to think. Do you know what? I said I was going to talk in the chat, so we'll say good evening to Paulo B. Anthony Roberts, thank you very much, by the way. That's great news. Well done. The Imp64, hello, good evening to you. Glad to hear you were able to keep the chickens. I'm glad we can keep the chickens because it was a horrible situation otherwise. Rehoming them might have been very difficult. So if we weren't able to keep them, we may have had to cull them. And I really don't fancy doing that for obvious reasons. Martin's telling me my audio is on. Yeah, I know. So I don't think I said anything, but Brian, we say good evening. And Brian, I got your email, by the way, so thank you very much for that. Sorry for the slow replies, as ever, just for obvious reasons I've already explained this evening. Keop Troy, hello, good evening to you. Findus, long time no here, good evening. And just joining us now is Half Greek Geek, good evening to you, sir. Paula B's just made a Paulie OB, sorry, Paul OB for now on. Has just made a very, very valid point, actually. The retro toys are more collectible than anything else. Yeah, and it's fine. I'm not, there's nothing wrong with them. I mean, it just and yeah, I mean, you know how much mileage we've got out of the C64 range of stuff, but I mean, we have ended up modding it and trying to run other things, and it's fine for that, and it serves a purpose. Don't get me wrong, but I kind of reaching that point now where I'm thinking I can build emulator boxes myself. That's because people like me and probably people like you, we're all technical people, right? So the idea of taking have I got a Raspberry Pi lying around? I have. I've still got that weird one from the other week. So, we could take a Raspberry Pi, we could build a Linux image, we could compile an emulator, and we can sort of build custom stuff. Yeah, we can do all that, and that's the kind of thing. That's what we enjoy doing. I totally get it that the people just going into Toys R Us isn't around anymore. But like the big toy stores, the supermarkets, the chain stores, and just picking something off because it plays games that they remember from the 80s. Yeah, that's the market, and I get that, and that's how they make money, and that's fine. There's no criticism. It's obviously just for people like myself and possibly you watching. We hit the ceiling with these products quite quickly. Hence why, I nearly went down the road of buying a Spectrum, but then I thought, actually, I could probably get that Spectrum up and running. That's a proper one. That's a real one right there, as you probably know. So I should probably do a project to rebuild that Spectrum, to be honest with you, and that would probably be more valuable, and I'd get more enjoyment out of that than buying a Retro Games product. So that's just my opinion, and you can disagree or whatever, but yeah, I mean, the C64, obviously, the first one was a bit of a nightmare, so we rebuilt it, as you might remember, into the unofficial C64 Maxi. And then when the full-size one came out, it was great. But then, obviously, we've had the power problems, so I need to get that kind of fixed at some point. By the way, if you're tuning in, if you think we're going to do any BBC Micro stuff tonight, we are, but we're not. We're not going to do what we were doing. Because I nearly didn't make it on air this evening. I thought, no, I will come on because I do need to keep this running. But that's why I'm in a bit of a fluster and messed up the start of my programme. So we will do something very shortly. What else have I got to tell you? Oh, do you want an update on car news? So you might remember last week I said, so basically this week Anna's been off work. So I've been able to borrow her car to get to work myself. My car has been on the drive, not working this week. Last week I said I reckoned it was the battery. Right, because when I put a jumper on it at work, it fired up fine, but it wouldn't turn on the battery. So you think, well, it's a low battery. Bought a new battery, nearly £100 to buy a new battery. Didn't test the old battery, which was the mistake, people. Bought a new battery, fitted it to the car, thought, right, great, fixed. Wouldn't turn over. Brand new battery, wouldn't turn over. Put the jumper back on it, turned over. It started. And I'm like, what is going on with this car? Anyway, I'm not a car expert, but actually saying that, I am getting more and more, due to work and dealing with agricultural machinery, and we have a whole automotive division at work, so I am getting more and more inclined to dealing with cars and automotive systems all the time. Basically, cut a long story short for you, it's the starter, I think, is gone. So basically, the starter, as you probably know, it's a solenoid that pushes out and it turns the motor and that cranks the engine. There's now not enough power, even on a fresh battery, for that to work. If you then put two batteries in parallel with each other, so it's still 12-volt running feed, but when you start the engine, you normally have a slight dip of voltage. Now, that normally is fine, but if the brushes are failing, or basically the solenoid is failing on your starter motor, it needs more oomph basically to start. When you have dual 24 volt, so dual 12 volt on the system, the voltage doesn't dip, so it starts, and it was doing that trick today. Not only with a starter, but now when I use jumper leads to connect the old battery sitting outside the car into the new battery sitting inside the car, turned it on, and yeah, it works fine. So definitely something wrong with the starter. I did check the relays and the fuse box. The fuses all checked good. The relays looked fine. I can't test car relays, but they all looked fine. So annoyingly, I think it's the starter that's gone. So I should start an automotive channel. Tom knows nothing about cars. Be a hit, yeah. Wi-Fi Sheep Automotive. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we get that sorted, because I need my car back, because getting to work is 40-minute drive from here. And actually where we're moving to, for me, ironically, it's still a 40-minute drive, but it's more direct. So yeah, obviously I don't want to go into too much detail because we've got a lot of work to do, but it's extremely scary, but at the same time there's huge and exciting possibilities, and I'm really excited to kind of be coming to you from a new location. And the potential room for the workshop is twice the size of this. So I mean, people that you think this room is large, it isn't. It really is not a large room at all. Those of you, and a few of you that have actually visited, sorry, I've got hair in me, I stuck to my glasses, that's why. Those of you that have actually visited me here, and you've actually come into this space, and you've been shocked, absolutely shocked at how small this room actually is. It looks really big on the camera. It's not. I don't even think it's 12 foot squared, this room. It's tiny, absolutely tiny. So we're going into kind of like 18 by 20 foot type spaces, which will be, amazing. And finally, I can set up a more permanent studio space, so I can have like a proper like lighting, ceiling rig and all sorts, proper fixed benches, not straight away, you understand, but proper fixed benches, and I can have all this properly like stacked up and all my tools and everything set up, as well as having more channel decor, so I can obviously paint the walls what I need. I can have, murals of sheep and things on the walls, or whatever I want to do, So yeah, there's huge potential, and I think it will make for hopefully slightly better content. Plus, it'd be a good opportunity to finally launch the new brand and finally go up to full 1080p HD from the 720 that we currently broadcast in, if I've got the bandwidth. Luckily, the place has cable. So we don't have cable television here, so you're limited to either having to go via mobile internet, or you have to go through the copper system. Luckily, I get quite a good broadband out of the copper system, but apparently there's cable to the house. And cable is always offered a fast and slightly cheaper method for broadband internet. So hopefully we can get a reliable cable connection. Which would be great, but this is all stuff I've got to, do and think about. I don't know, what else was I going to say? I can't remember. There was something else I was going to say, and if it comes to me, I'll, I'm trying to think. No, I think that's it for now. We'll be back on fibre all the way, as Paulie will be saying. Yes. So yeah, well, that's what the cable network is. It is fibre, isn't it? For those of you in the UK, I'm talking the Virgin Media. Because Virgin Media is like the only cable company for the whole country. So we just don't have cable here. It was never laid here. So, or if it is, it may be some cable now, but we don't have it. It's not. They're not connected here. So it's copper to the end of the street. So it goes to the standard copper phone line to the end of the street. Then it jumps onto the cable network, the fibre network. So currently I'm with Sky. I don't have the television or satellite, but I have them for broadband. But it's getting a bit expensive for what it is, and obviously it's probably better just to jump on Virgin is what I'm thinking. But yeah, so that's the plan. But hopefully there'll be disruption anyway because this room's got to go and I need to set up a new place. But I'm hoping to minimise that because I've got projects there. We've got 2 shows this year. So by the way, just a reminder again, show dates for you. There they all are. Please do come along. Do come along and support both events if you. Excuse me, if you can. I think he says. Just going to go to the National Museum of Computing. Let me find the right one. Too many buttons. Too many buttons. Just bear with me. There we go. Okay, so it's visit and events. So if you go through to, by the way, if you've never visited them, I highly do recommend visiting. So we go through to June, and is it on there? Features. Hello, it's not on there. Okay, I'm surprised. I honestly thought it was. Okay, so don't do that because it's not there. Let me just check a minute. Yeah, June the 7th and 8th. May. June 7th, 8th. Okay, well the tickets are definitely on sale for it. I can absolutely assure you of that. This is this will probably now break the This is Matterport. I've done a Matterport for work. Check the streaming isn't suffering too bad. Oh, okay. So this is basically gives you a sort of virtual, bit like Google Street Maps, really. It's going to run very slowly on the streaming PC, but if you've never been, so it's basically inside some of the huts of Bletchley Park. It's different to the main Bletchley Park Museum, so you have to pay twice if you want to do both of them. But down here, come on, stop being slow. And then around the corner. Same in these museums, you pass and there's like, I own bits of stuff where you reckon there's a Mac. Hang on, where are we going? In here, the BBC Micro Classroom, which, yeah. Which I've been in a few times. We've done videos a few times, but yeah, I'm going to have to click that off because that's going to take up far too much bandwidth. But yeah, so well worth a visit actually if you haven't done so already. And yeah, I'm cutting up my bandwidth unfortunately, which is, yeah, don't use this, don't tax out the streaming PC because it's hopefully you're still with me. Anyway, yeah. Yeah, so there's a few things going on. Oh, I know what I wanted to talk about. Hang on. I've remembered now. One moment. Let me just pop you there a moment. Okay, so the other night It was last night. To be fair, I was listening to some shortwave. So for those of you who don't know, I have an amateur radio license. That's actually my call sign, M6IDT. I've never used it, but I do have like a ham radio, amateur radio. I am licensed to broadcast, but I do very much enjoy listening to shortwave radio. So I actually do have like multiple shortwave receivers just for picking up shortwave. And I was listening to a favourite channel. This is a broadcaster, but I actually would like to do a radio show, Wi-Fi sheep radio show. I've talked about this before. So as well as doing the 8 till 8 programme, which is always a bit chaotic, as this one is tonight, I also wanted to do like a more formal scripted speech-based radio show. Remember, Wi-Fi sheep originated as a radio show. It was the Wi-Fi sheep radio show was the first thing we did back in 2017. And those of you that are channel members or Patreon backers, if you go on the exclusive playlist, all the radio show, InVision radio show recordings from those very early days, back at our original base in Kidderminster before we moved here, those are actually still there. So anyway, the point I'm trying to make is, if we go to, no, I don't want to do that. Go away. Right. Back to the web browser. There we go. And there's a shortwave broadcaster in Germany for Europe called Channel 292, Radio 292. It's not the best website, and translated out of German helps. So 292, Channel 292 operate free European, pan-European international frequencies. 39. This is all in AM, by the way. So 3955 kilohertz, 6070 kilohertz, and 7670 kilohertz. And you can actually click to see the schedules of each one. So the most successful that works here in the UK is during the day and into the evening is 9670 kilohertz. 6070, which has more programming on, I can't pick up. It's for Central Europe. I'm very rarely can I ever pick it up here in the UK. And 3955 works very well here, but only overnight in the evenings. Anyway, back to 9670. And if you scroll down, it gives you the schedule. Now, there's a lot of very empty space on 292. But basically what happens is that broadcasters, program makers, or maybe even some YouTubers can actually book and rent airtime. It's all fully legitimate. The station is legal and licensed in Germany. And basically, you can actually rent airtime. And that's what a lot of these broadcasters actually do. They rent airtime. Most of the programming is English language, but some of it is obviously German or overseas language. But last night, there was this program here called TV Radio, which was on at 1900 hours GMT on Friday night. And I've never heard of that before. I did a Google search to see if there's any information on it, because a lot of the broadcasters also have pages, things on the side, links and stuff to their own programming. And so anyway, so I tuned into this. And it was the most strangest and eccentric broadcast I've ever heard. I only lasted about 16 minutes, and I thought, I'm done. So it sort of played a load of, for those in the UK and of a certain age, remember the old ITV ident music for when you had the separate commercial broadcasting companies. So things like the ATV chimes and things like that. I'm too young to remember ATV, but I know the historical nature of it. Things like that. So it's playing all these old ITV jingles, effectively. And then it was playing music kind of related to TV. So, things like The Buggles, Video Killed the Radio Star, and all, things like that. And then it was this sort of British chap, came on. Probably older than me, but not old. And it was the most sort of eccentric kind of, I can't even do an impression of it properly, but it's like sort of, welcome to TV Radio, where we do TV on the radio. Isn't that strange? And I was like, are you in this strange sort of on the radio? It's just, are you serious? And this just went on, and then complaining about how, oh, flat screen televisions, they're rubbish, aren't they? I like the old glass tube televisions. They were much better. They made a proper bang when you smashed the tubes. It's just, and seriously, I wish I'd recorded it because it was bizarre. It's like, and I could have recorded it. By the way, if you want to listen to 292, you can actually click. You won't hear anything, unfortunately, because I don't set this up. But, or at least you shouldn't hear anything, he says. Oh, actually, no, you might actually. If I turn this up. Right, so. Now, I just, for word of warning, I can't hear that. So, unless I grab headphones, which aren't in the room. But you're probably just hearing a very weak static signal. But basically, I'm just going to turn that right down. So, actually, there may be copyright material. So let me just cut the audio on that for the moment. So this is from Netherlands, from a university in the Netherlands, and it's an online shortwave receiver. So you can actually listen to analog shortwave within your web browser. So there's the frequency for what would have been 292, but I think there's next to nothing there. And it gives you all the broadcast bands. So anything with a higher or richer colour is actually transmitting something. And it usually tells you what it is. So a lot of it is Radio China International. There's Voice of Turkey. You can even pick up things like North Korea. I don't know if Voice of America is broadcasting anymore because I believe Donald Trump cut their federal funding for Voice of America in the week just gone, so don't know if that's still going, but you can see there's all sorts of traffic. There's the broadcast band, and there's all sorts of traffic outside the bands, Morse, digital data, that kind of thing. A lot of it's been signaled, so it tells you what it is. It's been labelled, but you can scroll right out. So you've even got the CB radio band up the top. Green bands are amateur bands, so those of us that are licensed would be allowed to use those. And then obviously you've got the purple bands are the commercial. It's going to let me zoom back in. Are the commercial broadcast bands, which is where channel 292 sits. And you can go all the way down into the medium wave or AM on your normal radio. Bearing in mind that's the entire medium wave spectrum for Europe, so a lot of stations on the medium wave will be on top of each other. So you can see the amount of different European state broadcasters on top of each other. The BBC is somewhere around here. Radio 5, BBC. There we go, BBC Radio 5. So that's Radio 5, which actually looks quite a clean signal. So in my car, I have Radio 5 on medium wave tuning because I don't have DAB, digital radio, in the car. So, but you've also got things like BBC relays for BBC Radio 4 on the medium wave. And then obviously we go all the way down. It's not ideal to listen with medium wave on here because obviously it's so much traffic overlapping. But you can go all the way down, and then you've got long wave, and you've got the one remaining BBC Radio 4 on 198 long wave. That's actually due to shut down very shortly, and I'll be doing a video on that because they're cutting. I think they're shutting down Radio 4 long wave 2 months time, something like that. You've also got there's Polish state radio. And I didn't know Ireland was still broadcasting. Irish Radio 1 still broadcasting. So yeah, that's well worth a look if you just want to have a play and listen to what's going on. You also get information on and the whereabouts of a number of unofficial government spy stations, what are known as number stations, mainly from the likes of Poland, Russia, etc. I'm trying to think where things. I can't remember where things are. I found there is quite a famous one. I can find it. I think it's around 4 something. Just bear with me. Sits up in the top of the amateur band. So you have things like maritime radio channels you can pick up as well. I'll find it. So you see, so anything, our US is Russian. Stockholm, Israeli military. Let's keep going. US military. Oh, there we are. Right. So the buzzer, which is some of this stuff dates back from the Cold War Soviet era. So this is the buzzer, and I think you need to go into USB. So sideband, so not AM modulation, but what is some universal side? I can't remember. It's not USB as in the computer plug. It's sideband, and yeah. Let's see if I can unmute you. He says so. So that is called the buzzer, and it literally just does that. It buzzes. It keeps the channel. It's a military channel, and the buzzer sits on it basically to keep it clear. And occasionally you get Russian voices on it. So it is used as a military. It's also jammed quite a lot by obviously with the international situation at the moment. You get a lot of protesters and people broadcasting in that space and jamming it. But yeah, so that is a sort of a number station that broadcasts all the time, and you can pick that up. But you need a radio that picks up USB mode. You can hear it on AM, but it's not a particularly strong signal. But that's all it does, just buzzes all day, every day. There's even a live stream on YouTube just repeating what this is. But yeah, but do go and check that out because it is interesting. But anyway, if we go back to, because I'm getting distracted, if we go back to 292, so the weekend is always a bit busier on 292. And this evening, let's just, this is channel 292 on 3955. And there is some programs this evening when we come off air. Now, see where it says Blockton Wooferton. Ironically, Wooferton Broadcasting Centre is literally down the road from where I am. It's in South Shropshire, on the border in Ludlow, South Shropshire. So when Channel 292 in Germany has to switch off on this frequency to allow Wooferton to broadcast, the signal is blindingly strong here because I am literally, I mean, this is meant for international broadcast. I am so close to the transmitting site that I get a really, really strong signal. Again, there's not an awful lot on this frequency, not a lot of programs booked, but I was thinking of booking a space potentially because I want to do the Wi-Fi Sheep radio show on shortwave, and I was thinking of booking a space on 9670 shortwave, and then also doing a repeat of the same program on 3955, which works better at night. So it would mean, that's the wrong thing, it would mean obviously taking some budget out the YouTube channel, but I think it might be worth it. It'd be very interesting to do like a computing documentary style radio show, speech-based radio program. But like, anyone remember the Make It Digital series that Radio 4 did a little while ago? And they did speech-based radio programming all about computing, and they did one called Code to Change the World about different programming languages, and that was great. So I'd love to do kind of like a scripted radio content sort of program for shortwave. And also kind of under the Wi-Fi Sheep banner. That would be kind of cool to do. So I've been talking about it for 3 years and I've not done it. But also it's kind of like, I've got this, this live stream as well, which is kind of like a radio show. I don't know how many of you actually watch me or just listen to me waffle on for an hour or two. Anyway, just looking in chat. So Paulie OB saying, might give it a try. I have a shortwave radio knocking. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's not as shortwave isn't as good as it was in the heyday, but there's still a lot of stuff you can listen to, and it is interesting just to kind of see it's interesting to see what's online, but also to sort of just see what you can pick up locally. And I have picked up North America, and I actually think I managed to pick up a transmission from Australia way, actually. So it's amazing what you can pick up. Anyway, right. If anyone is left, and there are a few of you left, so good evening. Welcome to 8 till 8 from youtube.com/Wi-Fi sheep. I'm not prepared for these programs at all, live streams at all at the moment. I've drunk that tea too quick. Oh, excuse me. Right. I've got to be honest with you, I don't intend to be on too long this evening. I might just be on. We're coming up to the hour, so I might call it a night on the hour, because the big news today is obviously that, as I was just saying, we put an offer in on a house, and that's just totally freaked me out. But what was really freaky was we went to look at it, and then we went to the local park just to chat about it before we went home, and we decided we were going to put an offer in. So we rang the estate agent there, and then we hadn't left yet, so we're still in the area. We rang the estate agent. We made an offer, which was the list price offer, but we thought that was probably fair. And normally what happens is the estate agent goes back to the owner, current seller, the property owner, and says, will you accept it? This estate agent accepted it and said, yes, I'll accept that, and then. And we're like, what? And I'll be honest with you, we made an offer. This is for a 4-bedroom house with land, 4 bedrooms, for under £200,000, semi-detached. And you probably know what house prices are in the UK at the moment. 4 big bedroom house for under 200. We offered under 200,000, and they accepted it. And I was just like, wow, that's astonishing. I mean, to put that in context, the house next door, immediate house, I'm in a semi-detached here, so the one not attached to us, our neighbours that we face on that side through there, she's just sold, and she's just said these are 3 bedrooms this is the small box room. It's like 1940s style housing. If you're familiar with the semi-detached pre-war build housing, and that's what this is, that one went for £320,000. And we've just potentially been accepted on an offer for a house that's actually larger, 4 bedroom, for well over £100,000 less. It's like, wow. So that's why I'm a bit shocked this evening. So I'll let you know how things go. It might not happen, but who knows? But if it does, it'll be amazing. A lot of hard work, but it'll be amazing, because it'll mean, a much bigger space. So I can have more computers, and I can bring my trains. I can have my train set up as well, which would be amazing. So we could have computers over here, and then model railways, like, I don't know, over there somewhere, which would be awesome. And what I really want to do, what I'd really like, is to have better space to have my BBC Micros set up. I do need to put the BBC Micro back under here, really, which I haven't done yet. But I would like to have the PCs and the BBC Micros set up a bit better, so it's easier to look at things, play with things, etc. So, yeah. One thing I was contemplating. Let's go back to now. This is where I wanted to be before I left my mic open. So let's just stop that. Brian saying you won a gold watch there, Tom. Congratulations. Yes, thank you, Brian. I'm just I know I am. I don't know what to think tonight. I'm in a bit of state of shock, so we both are. So it needs work, but it is habitable. but it's the decor looks like it's come from 1988. In all honesty, it's proper time capsule in there. Let me just bear with me a moment. I'm just trying to find a disk image. Let's put this. So this is BBEM, by the way. I'm on a PC, but we're running the BBC Micro emulator. So this emulator is free, so you can actually do this yourself. You don't need real hardware. This is what I run the Night Owl images that Brian very kindly supplied to me. I can swap the hardware back to Model B. There we go. And Acorn DFS. Yeah, that looks fine. So what I'm just trying to do is find my disk images that I have put in a safe place. Might be that one. Let's just check. Okay, so I've loaded, these are .ssd files. So if I go star, you can go star cat, or you can just go star dot. That works. Nope, that's not the right file. I'm looking for a particular file which I know is embedded on one of these disks, so just bear with me. Oh, it might be on this one actually. Right. Change the disk. This is the equivalent of like physically changing floppy disks over. So yeah, it's there. Okay. So we go load. Oops, load DD. Okay, so you might remember this, which single-handedly was the worst program ever created by anybody ever. It was, however, being brutally honest, the first program that I actually ever created, and it was myself and a friend here, hence the initials. Obviously, I'm TW, and we created this back in the latter part of the 90s on the school BBC Micros. This was, I would have been primary school when this was created, and we had no real teaching wasn't taught. No, computing wasn't taught. Okay, so programming wasn't taught. The BBC Micros were a hangover from the 80s, from the original computer literacy project, and basically they were used as typewriters. I've told you this story numerous times. I found the one book, which is still in the room somewhere, but I can't remember what I've done with it. I found the one book in the library which gave an introduction to program. You might remember when we were looking at the Aegon Lite, I actually see, which runs BBC Basic, and I was actually seeing how much of the book's content actually worked on that system, and surprisingly a lot of it did. But anyway, so this was a program, and that's basically the 7 lines there was the best thing we ever created and the best we could do. It didn't have access to any of the manuals, and I would have been 10. Bearing in mind we have no access to any documentation. The internet isn't really a thing yet. The school aren't teaching it. The school don't care. This is the best we come up with, and so it's a sort of lazy logo type thing. So you sort of go draw, 100, 100, and go, oh look, aren't we amazing? You can draw on the red screen with the flashy text. This thing has always irritated me because obviously we had no idea what we were doing. It was called DD Writer, Design and Draw Writer, basically because the DDs got stuck on the screen and we had no idea at the time why that was. If I just go back to mode 0 and list again, you'll see there's a VDU command that's not quite right, and if you call that VDU command, let's just do that again quickly. It says DD, yeah. If you just list again, if you take line 20 out, it still does exactly the same thing, and so it didn't even need that line in, but now it just says writer. And it says writer because obviously we're printing the word writer, and we're all very, as 10-year-olds, we were like, oh, we can copyright things. I mean, I sort of had a brief concept of what copyright was as a 10-year-old, so it's just appalling. Also, we're using a Gocart statement, graphics color. So if you go Gocart 7.129, we need to do that in mode 2, apologies, mode 2. List. So mode 2 is the lowest resolution graphics mode with the highest amount of colours. The amount of colours being 8 digital logical colours, no greys or off tones or anything on a stock machine, which is what this is. So if I now call Gocart again, you'll see exactly what happens. So Gocart, I go 7.129 CLG. There we go. Yeah. And then if you kind of if you go back to the program, you're colouring. So you go CLG. And then you go CLG again. And then you get, I don't know what's going on with this, but obviously we had no idea what we were doing. The point of showing you this, let me just go back to mode 0, is, although I'm probably not going to do it tonight, is a little project to kind of rewrite this program into something remotely presentable. So I was wondering about the possibilities of actually creating a little like logo program where you actually put coordinates in and it draws things, but it does it in a proper way. So in the spirit of this program, but done properly, if that makes sense. So that's what I'm thinking I might want to do, just as like a basic project. And once we've got it running in emulator in BBC Basic on the BBC Micro, we should be able to get it ported, and we can do things like trying to port it and making it work on other basic systems. That's the plan. It also ties in things like RISC OS on the Raspberry Pi, and it even potentially ties in, wrong button, it ties in, we might be able to get it to even work on things like possibly on the Mac, because I was looking at basic interpreters. There were basic interpreters for the Mac, which was very interesting. And also going back to our Project Rio color-based systems, which I've not forgotten about that, and I do intend to get back to doing some stuff on that. Actually being able to port this program, potentially this new sort of logo type thing, have it working on original BBC Micro, Raspberry Pi RISC OS, Mac Pico, all the way through to Project Rio on our own build system. So I think that might be a sort of an interesting project to do, so something I will be looking at. Also, I've still got a few kit build systems to do, which I want to do, and most importantly, I do need to get my Rotten Acorns series up and running. So we started with the BBC Master 128, you may remember, and those, I need both of those machines ready for Bletchley Park and the Econet LAN party. I also have got a RISC PC that I want to do a heavy rebuild on. So I need to try and do this whilst pulling the house apart. So yeah, it's going to be a very, very interesting summer, put it that way. As a contingency plan, I am thinking I might actually take some of this stuff possibly to work, because we are coming to the end. We're about to break up for Easter very shortly, the end of next week. I'm obviously working through Easter, but there'll be no students. The students come back, and then my last day of teacher assisting or teaching is on the 27th of May, and then our students finish. We will have some international students still with us, and master's degree students will still be with us. But basically, there'll be a lot of downtime. So, but I'll still need to be in work and on duty. So I'm thinking there might be an opportunity to take some of my Wi-Fi sheet project work, especially if here is gone. And actually, I'll have to check with my boss if it's okay. But we might actually do some project work from Wi-Fi sheet project builds and practical work from the actual workshops and the labs and stuff from the university. So it'll be a very different space to work in, but that might be quite cool. And it allows me to kind of just get on and do some stuff if I've got downtime and I'm not busy with other, project work. So we'll see how that goes. It's all good learning, and obviously the projects I do actually, bring as learning aids and assets back to the students. So I'll have a think about that. I know it's a little early, but I've been on for about an hour, and I'm probably going to call it a night, in all honesty, because it's been a busy day. So I hope you can understand. We should be back next week. I'll let you know ahead of time. Plan to be back next week. Hopefully we'll be a little more organised, and we can maybe start work on this basic project. There is stuff coming up on Wi-Fi Sheep as well. So obviously I was just mentioned the Rotten Acorns project. And on Wi-Fi Sheep Channel 2, I have the Mechatronics Buggy Challenge, again from the university. Our fourth year students built intelligent, self-driving, remote control. I say remote control car buggies. They were not remote controlled. They were based on Arduino Uno microcontrollers with some additional assistant things like ESP assistant microcontrollers. And they built these autonomous vehicles to navigate a dirt road course. You may have seen the video from last year that's on Channel 2. Well, they ran the course again this year, up the ante a little bit. So I have, it's quite an entertaining video actually. So that's in the works, and that'll be coming up on Wi-Fi Sheep Channel 2, hopefully real soon. That is going to be it for me for tonight. So once again, thanks everybody for tuning in this evening, and again, hope to see you again next week. Just a reminder before we go, if you want to support me in the channel, you can. It's patreon.com/Wi-Fi Sheep. Alternatively, there we are, it's YouTube channel members, base support 99p all the way up to £2.99. And once again, thank you everybody so much. There you all are. Thank you so much to everybody that continues to support me. I really, especially at times like this, it makes a lot of difference. So thank you all so much. And the time is, I make it 7 minutes past 9, 21:07 GMT in the evening. We're going to be switching over to British summertime very shortly, so it'll be a GMT +1 in the not too distant future. If you're outside the UK, just bear in mind that we'll be coming an hour earlier. Let's get this right. An hour earlier than normal? Yes, because the clocks go forward. Yes. So at some point we will be switching to British summertime, and we'll be back an hour earlier than normal at what will then be 8 o'clock to be 20. No, it'll be 7. Let's get this right. It'll be 1900 hours GMT or UTC, which will be 2000 hours BST or GMT +1. I think I've got that right, but I'll let you know nearer the time. As I said at the time, now 8 minutes past 9 GMT time. Thank you all so much for your company, and I will see you hopefully next week. Until then, I wish you a very peaceful night. Good night.